All right. Well, Imogen, first of all, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you. Really lovely to be here.
For sure. So, yeah, I mean, even though we already had a talk, I already kind of know you. I'm just wondering, maybe for anybody that's new tuning in, can you give us a little introduction into who you are and what you do exactly?
I think you asked me that on the first time we met, and I think
Probably did.
I'm probably going to answer in a similar way in the fact that I find that question incredibly hard to answer.
Hmm.
Even after doing this for, I don't know, almost 10 years now. Um, I think because what I do is often beyond the conceptual sort of graspable mind idea. But broadly speaking, I would call myself a contemplative or a mystic. Um, and I mentor and support people. I work very much in the energetic realm, in the realm of presence and energy, and meeting people in the mystery, in the ungraspable. Um, uh, in terms of my background and where I come from, I was born into a meditating family, transcendental meditation specifically. So I wasn't an archetypal seeker. This was just sort of my life. And I think it was 2015 that I encountered a very strong shift in consciousness, and sort of life changed from there, you could say. And it's been quite a journey since then, uh, more than I expected, I think. I thought
Mm.
that would come with a sort of a doneness, and in some ways it kind of did. But in many ways, it's been such a deep unfolding since then. Even since we last met, it feels like lifetimes ago in some sense of it. So, yeah.
Might have been. It's never over. It's never done.
No.
Mm. That's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of the journey is it's a
Yeah.
never-ending unfolding.
Yeah. It's almost like life continuously has this way of wanting to sort of continuously open itself to deeper and deeper and more nuance and different expressions of existence. And to me, that is the most spectacular aspect of life, that it never tires of creation, that it never tires of presenting us with different facets of existence.
Mm. Endless novelty.
Yeah. And yet, so here's the paradox of it. I live in paradox. Much of my sort of teaching, if you could call it that, lives
Hmm.
very much in the depth of paradox. And the paradox also is there is an unchanging aspect. There is a ground. There is something that goes beyond and prior to all of that too, which also is a complete mystery and completely wonderful to me as well. So
Hmm.
yes, it's constantly changing, but also it's not as well.
Yeah. Living in the mystery. Did you
Yes.
say something like that?
Yeah.
You live in the mystery? Yeah.
Yeah,
Live
that's
in
it.
this mystery, live in the paradox. I feel you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I find the more and more I go on in this life, the more and more that becomes uh, really obvious and apparent, that we try as humans to try and sort of pin it down and create images and certainties and concepts and ideas, and it's so much in that realm, that nature of that realm. But the further I get down into all of this, I find the opposite to be true. And so the more and more I go, I haven't got a clue, actually. I really don't know. And that's okay. Like living in that mystery and that free fall, in that unknown is actually part of the biggest joys of life, I think.
Hmm. It's a free fall with no bottom.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Isn't that that famous? I'm terrible at quotes, but the Chogyong Trungpa, I think, did that quote. That there's that famous quote of, uh,
Yeah.
you maybe you recognize it.
That's the one I was kind of referencing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the good news is no, sorry. The bad news is we're in a free fall. The good news is there's no bottom.
yeah. It's one of my favorite quotes. I think it sums it up so well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's the fear that there is going to be a bottom that we're going to smash into that stops that sort of surrender, that letting go, that opening of the palm of life and recognizing I'm not in control, nor do I need to be in control. But it's like you encounter that fear that goes, no, if I let go, I'm going to smash on the ground here. And so it's that to me is speaking that's why you have to have both parts of that quote,
Mm-hmm.
both parts of that understanding in your own experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is powerful stuff. We're only 5 minutes in.
Good.
Getting right to it.
Yeah.
This is great. Let me ask you this one though, because I don't think we talked about it much in the first one, about you being born into a family that practices meditation. Now,
Mhm.
if you believe in karma, that's very good karma.
Yeah.
How did that aid you in your realizations into you becoming a mystic?
Well, that's an impossible question to answer because I don't have an alternative view.
Yeah, right.
But having said that, I do consider it to be very lucky because my view of life was never from the point of view of the material as being what we've got. This is it. It was always from the point of view of that ground of being that mystery, although that wasn't the language that I would have used. But I remember so I went to the Maharshi school in the UK from the age of about 13, but prior to that, I was in a normal school in Wales. And I remember very distinctly that I had quite a different life view from my peers. Um, and I think what that did for me was allow me to open up to, or rather beyond the norm. But more importantly, because I had the grounding of meditation from the age of five, whatever, five, I can never remember how old I was. I think I was about five. Um, it meant that I had experience of consciousness. I had an experience of the absolute. I have the experience. So beyond understanding, which actually came a little bit later for me because I only turned up at the Maharshi school when I was 13. So the experience was innocent and first and foremost. And that to me was just such a beautiful way to start out in life. Now looking back, of course, it was just ordinary for me. So I wouldn't have ever described it this way when I was a child.
Mm,
But now looking back and also meeting with people and meeting with people who have children as well and talking about these kinds of things, I'm like, it really was a really uh, the best kind of grounding in life that you could start out with, which is not from solid form trying to undo that conditioning, but from the recognition of our eternal, essential ground of being.
mm-hmm.
And then, all of the concepts and the ideas on top of that. So it was, I would say, a good thing. It had its challenges as well. Um, as all organizations do, and all teachings and structures and all of that. So there was that aspect of it, and then family dynamics on top of all. I mean, you normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tricky childhood, I would say. Um, Not uneventful, and a lot of trauma in there. Even though I had a grounding of meditation, which probably saved me, I would say,
Mm.
but also gave me some tools that I think I bypassed with as well. So
Uh,
mixed bag, a mixed bag.
mm. Yeah, double-edged sword in a way.
Yeah.
Mm. I find, this is just my opinion, that the hardest part is getting exposed to the potentials of meditation, of yoga, of the Dharma, of the spiritual path, right? Just to know that it's possible. So
Hmm.
that's why I think it's good karma, even though you had the stuff that you got to go through. We all do. It's the fact that you even had that potential from birth.
Yeah.
That's cool because I had to figure it out myself. I was not born
Yeah.
into a family. Most of us aren't.
No.
in the West that has any of this involved. So I had to kind of
Yeah. You had to have
stumble my way into it.
your eyes opened. You have to have your eyes opened to that. Whereas I always had my eyes opened to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, my husband was the archetypal seeker. So we've had lots of
Uh,
conversations about the differences there of that. And there are, you could say there are pros and cons to both sides of that. But it definitely has left me living life from, uh, I would say, a more open viewpoint and not quite so sort of stuck or stagnated on the idea of the material as being primary.
mm, that's the big switch, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. It's consciousness first.
Yeah, that's the big 180, and then
Yeah.
everything changes.
Yeah. What brought that about for you? That sort of
Just
that.
getting on this wavelength.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just through, I think, a exhaustion of the material,
Yeah.
right? Of thinking that this is it. That's kind of what the world prescribes to you, is like, this is it. This is what you got to do, just materialism altogether.
Yeah.
And I felt that it didn't add up. There was something lacking. There
There you
was
go.
because I came from a relatively well-off family. I didn't have that much struggle,
Mhm.
right, in terms of materialism, but yet there was struggle within. So I'm like, there's
Yeah.
something not adding up here. What's wrong?
Yeah.
That just led me down the self-development path, led me into modalities such as meditation and yoga, and then I realized what we just described as consciousness being primary through all of those
Mm.
modalities and practices along the way.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of the formula for all of us, for all people that aren't born into it, born into the path in some way, is being at odds, reaching a sort of
Mm.
breaking point with the world, with the prescription of the American dream or the
Yeah.
UK dream,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, something just not quite hitting the mark. And then you have to, I guess, find the mark.
Yeah.
But it's tough when you don't know, as I said in the beginning, when you don't know that there is an alternative,
Yeah.
it's really tough.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of like where like the idea of we live in paradigms, right? And when you're in the midst of a paradigm, you have no idea it's a paradigm. It's only when you get to the edges of that, either coming into a paradigm or finding yourself leaning out of a paradigm, that you go, oh, hang on a second. I found the boundaries of that. I found the limits of that. It is a container by which, or a vessel by which I'm seeing life, a paradigmatic view of life. But the thing is, if you haven't been introduced to the fact that it is a paradigm, you're just living it. And so then the
Mm,
cracks begin to show, as they do with all paradigms. Paradigms are an overlay that eventually limits are found within that. And so where you haven't touched the ground that goes beyond any paradigm, i.e., I would call it the mystery, beyond all thought, beyond all conceptions or ideas or conditionings or whatever you want to lump into that. There's where you go, oh, this is all paradigms, and we can play in the world of paradigms. But what I am is prior to all of that.
mm-hmm, mm. Yeah. So the paradigms don't necessarily disappear. They're
No,
still
they
in the
don't
world.
have to. They don't have to. This is the beauty, like there's a sort of, there can be a subtle thing that I've encountered a lot of in my journey. This idea of it all has to disappear, and it's helpful at a stage to sort of, I don't know what language to use, but reject. Oh, I'm not this. I'm not that. In fact, I think I have this vague memory. We touched on this last time we spoke of netty netty, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it's like where you need to discover what you are, you first need to see what you're not. But eventually, that needs to be brought back into the fold and seen. No, this is just sort of layers of experience that overlay that fundamental reality, and that's fine. We can play within all of that. We are not diminished by um, playing within the realm of relativity. It's just an aspect of the temporary arising of life.
Mm. Playing with the paradigms.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, do you think that is the destination, if you want to say there's a possible destination, is a playful attitude with the multitude of identities that we
Mm. It
partake in
helps.
the human experience?
It
Yeah.
helps. In my experience, it helps. It helps because, things can get so serious and so solid and so real and so certain. And actually, when you really feel the true lightness of life that underlies all of this, all I find there to be is the play of life. It doesn't
Yep.
mean that seriousness doesn't happen and harm and hurt and all the rest of the things that we're encountering in life in a very sort of real way is felt in experience. But to see that it is the play, to be curious with that play. Oh wow, I'm angry. What's going on here? In my experience at least is a really beautiful way of interacting with life. And of course you can't sort of muscle your way into that, or you can try, but it's really about being so established in your heart, in the depth of being, that it allows you to see that all that is being happening and the play of life um, is not something that is somehow out to get you and you've got to either get right or wrong, but actually life constantly revealing itself in different aspects, in different flavors and different fragrances. That's where it becomes playful, not because we decided we've got to be playful with it, but because that's the experience of it.
Mm. Well said. Yeah, that's part of the switch. That's part of the 180 is the world's against me
Yeah.
to the world is for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's just part of materialism
Yeah.
innately. Unconsciously, we have that the world is against us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very fragile, this sense of fragile and a lack of security and stability. It's because we're putting our sense of stability and our security in the inherently unstable aspect of life and going, oh God, this can be taken away. And it's like, yes, but that was always going to be the way.
Yeah.
That was always the fact. So actually we're tasting, we're touching on, whether it's conscious or not, we're tasting the fragility of the changeable, and that we can't put our sense of security and stability there. It is absolutely not the right place to put, and therefore it becomes very dangerous to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because there's no integrity.
No, it's too changeable. It's too fickle, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You said one line. What was it? Tasting the fragility of the what?
I don't know.
It was good.
People ask me to repeat back what I say all the time, but that's not speech for me is not it's just flowing out. So I
We'll just have
don't.
to rewind the
Yeah, there
video.
you
Everyone's just gonna have to
go.
rewind it. Something about tasting the fragility of the material. Something like that.
Yeah,
It was good. You're
that
dropping a
sounds
lot
right.
of good one-liners in this one.
Okay.
That's for sure. um, yeah, and I don't think there's any other way. To be honest with you, it's just you can taste the fragility as much as you want until you reach that breaking point that I spoke of,
Yeah.
until it does collapse, and then you find out the only way to this so-called peace, happiness, Satchitananda,
Mhm.
is to taste the nectar, the sweet nectar of the immutable,
Yeah,
of the unchanging, of love, essentially.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think, people use this word love so much, and I feel like it's one of those words that is so misunderstood. It's so
Yeah, it's
uh
probably the biggest word that is
yeah.
misunderstood.
Yeah, it's so hard to define as well. We think of love in terms of uh, object of love, and actually, love is the subject. Love is what we are, but not in the traditional sense of the word love. We
Hmm.
can use all sorts of words synonymously with love, but it's a fragrance, it's a knowingness, it's a love of life, it's a sense of existence, the joy with life, the existence of life.
Yeah.
You said Satchitananda there is you cannot reduce it out of the equation. It's everything. It's at the basis of everything.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the whole point of this experience is to
Yeah.
play in love. And yeah, love isn't the right word. We gotta come up with another one. We gotta
Yes.
invent something else.
Well, in different languages, they have many, in for instance, English, we have a million words for rain. It's there's a storm outside my window. There's rain.
Yeah.
We've got a million words for rain, and not we've only got one word for love. There are other languages that have many different words for love, though, and I think that's
Mm.
always sort of interesting to me to see that.
Yeah, that is interesting because there are many different flavors to love.
Yeah, there
So how can you
are.
just say that with the one word? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it's really infinite. That's the thing is this love that we experience that we are is ever evolving. So even if we were to create some new word right here, right now, there would always be new words to put on it as this
yes,
experience moves along.
yes. This is why
That's the
words.
beauty of it.
Yeah, this is. I have a very ambivalent relationship with words. I found this last year I've been writing an awful lot. I've given a lot of time, dedicated a lot of time to words. And I both love words and also find them impossibly frustrating because no matter how many ways in which you point to this, it is always beyond words. And yet the words are the sort of breadcrumbs, if you would, to this. They hold a presence. They hold the wholeness of what is being pointed to in them. As long as you look beneath the words, you feel the transmission of what is being pointed to and where it is being pointed from. But man, I struggle with words because it always feels like it's just outside of the realm
Hmm.
of truth, because truth cannot be captured in the realm of words, not fully. And yet there's an impulse here to continually try. And I find that dance, like I say, I'm a very ambivalent relationship with that dance. I love it. And I also hate it.
Yeah, that's the play.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is.
There's something peculiar in particular about someone's words, though, that has the understanding and realization within, like
Mhm.
somebody that holds a certain power
Yeah.
that does transmit something that goes beyond the word.
Yes.
You know, they call it darshan or dharmic transmission in Eastern
Mhm.
traditions. I think there's something to that. There's a certain flavor in someone's words that is realized that goes beyond words, as I said,
It
you
does.
know?
There's the transmission, and you can feel it sometimes. I've been asked this idea of like, a book's good. Should I read books and stuff like that? And I'm like, it depends where you're reading it from. If you're
Yeah.
reading it to gather more information, it's the same with techniques and all of this. Or the whole search. If you're trying to gain something, you're trying to gather more, learn something, master something, you're missing what's actually being pointed to. If you go into it as like I say, a signpost or breadcrumbs that are sort of really drawing you into yourself, you can read just even a sentence and it brings you into that, I would say, kenotic state, that empty space, that
Mm.
inner stillness, that inner silence. It can draw you, just even a single word can draw you into that. But you have to surrender, you have to let go, you have to not want to understand what is being spoken about, but feel what is being spoken of, know what is being spoken of, not gain knowledge about it somehow.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. That's the tricky part is the knowledge only goes so far.
Yes.
The knowledge brings you to the state of no knowledge, of not knowing,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It
That's the
has.
free fall state of not knowing.
It is. It is. It brings you to the threshold, and there comes a point where you have to take that leap of faith beyond the threshold, where you have to let go of all that you think you know, and enter into that free fall. But
Mm.
the beauty of it is, knowledge does bring you to that doorway. It well, I could say for some people it takes them further away, and it just depends on the temperament. In my experience, some people very useful. Other people, to remain in that innocence is a better space. Just depends on the temperament, I think.
Yeah. It's hard to put in a cookie cutter general statement.
Oh,
Mhm.
impossible. All of this stuff is, though. There's
Yeah.
so many paths to the same experience. And I think for me, honoring that is really something we as a culture are not very good at, because we want to universalize everything in terms of, oh, if this worked for me, this is how it must be. Or if this worked for another, this is how it must be. And then we get into comparison. And yes, there may be some sort of pathways that work, or like you follow a pathway for a while, let's say. But ultimately, awakening is not about being good at following paths.
Hmm. Yeah. That's the dance again, is honoring one's individual dharma, but
Mhm.
also honoring the paths and dharma of
Yeah.
people that came before us.
Yeah. And it's again, that paradox is recognizing that it is both and.
Yep.
And it's like, just because something leads you to a place doesn't mean that you then need to stay there. It's that true teachings lead you to yourself, not to being a good student.
Hmm. Amen. Yep. That's what I always say. If a teacher or teaching isn't bringing you to you,
Yeah.
run the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Big red flags.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very impure. And we see that so much, even
Yeah.
nowadays.
But
I
we
see it.
want it as well. Like, as humans, we
Uh,
want someone to save us. We want someone to tell us this is what you got to do. And I think there is room for that. Like I said, I think that that paradox of, like, to follow a path is to surrender your sense of where I'm going and what I'm doing and how I get there, but also to never give over your sense of, let's say, sovereignty about using these paths as a way of further coming to know yourself, rather than abandoning yourself in the path. And that is
mm,
a delicate dance. That's a really delicate dance, not one
hmm.
that can be even judged from the outside, I'd say.
Mm. Yeah, very true. It's a very thin line to toe, for sure.
Yeah.
Very
Razor's edge.
delicate.
Razor's edge all the way.
Mm. Amen. Amen to all of that. I'm just curious, are you writing any books or a book?
Yes, an extraordinary, stupid amount of books. Actually, it seems I've got two books I've released so far. Um, Here they are. There's two
And
books.
go
I
ahead and plug them.
released one this one last year, which was poetry,
Sacred Threads in
and
the
The
Heart
Heart
That
That
Knows.
Knows. Yeah, this was
Ah,
Sacred Threads is actually a collection of my writing on Substack. I write a lot on Substack. Um, but yeah, I have a few books on the go, and I'm just trusting that they're going to materialize in finished form when they're ready to. But yeah, I typically this year at least, I've dedicated my mornings to writing, which was a new one for me. I started this whole thing by writing, actually. Before I ever met anyone or held any groups, I started with writing back in 2000, I think it was 16. I was on Twitter, actually. It started on Twitter when it was still 140 characters. Um, and then sort of meeting people and groups and stuff took over. So I started a blog back then, and then I got, obviously, people started to hear about me, and then I started meeting, and that sort of took over my life for the last 5 years in a really beautiful way. But the writing definitely went to the back burner. And something about this time last year, actually, I felt this. I entered into a sort of a descent, I would say, which is part of my process. Apparently, I find myself there quite frequently. But in that descent, what came out of it, the green shoots of that, is writing is what I need to be doing right now. So
Mm,
I reorganized my life around that, and every morning for many hours I sit in a sort of a meditative state with my computer, because typing is easiest for me. I don't have to look. I just am able to touch type. So I just let what wants to flow, and then I draw back into stillness, into silence, and then more comes. And then, yeah. So this dance I've been sort of trusting, and it's interesting because this is where I feel my true voice is sort of unleashed in a way, where
Mm,
it's just coming from that stillness. It's an emanation. It's not even my voice at that point. It's just sort of an emanation of life flowing
mm.
through. So I've been really enjoying that process. It's also feels a little bit like bleeding on the page sometimes, but yeah.
Ooh, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, it's a different way to utilize the word. So right now,
Mm,
we're utilizing the word, but it's not as like surgical as writing.
yeah.
But I think we channel in a different way when we
Yeah.
write.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've played with speech to writing and just typing, and also physically writing. And each medium has a different way in which the words come, I find, which is in itself quite fascinating.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, so I'm just in that play at the moment, in that playing with that words. And like I said, I have a very ambivalent relationship with words because of it. But
mm.
uh, yeah, it's been fun.
Can imagine.
Yeah.
It's very miraculous that we can utilize the word. Like if
Mm,
you put into context, just human history, most people didn't know how to read,
yeah.
right? And the fact that we have the ability to read, we have the ability to write or type is something we take for granted,
Totally. Yeah.
right? It's a power that we take for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do actually form this relationship with the word, stuff changes. I think it changes your consciousness. It changes your whole experience altogether.
Yes, it does. You know, it's interesting because that sparked something for me of in the weeks after I had this shift in 2015. This, I mean, I'd had shifts before, but this, I would say, an abiding shift. Um, at the time, I was a bit of a nightmare for my husband because he'd sort of had this shift prior to me, and I remember us sitting, talking those weeks afterwards, and it was like my whole brain was being reorientated around words. It's like, what does consciousness mean? What does universe mean? What does, all these words that had been built up into a thing in a certain state of consciousness now had to be sort of deconstructed and reconstituted with this new experiential knowingness. And so it's not the words were the same, but the experience and the knowingness of what they were pointing to was entirely different. So I had to go
Yeah.
through this process of sort of like almost surgically unwinding those words. I don't know if you can relate to this and have been through a similar thing yourself, but it's fascinating to me that
Mm,
words can hold such a power, but they can hold such a concept behind it, such a story that actually isn't congruent with the direct experience of what is being spoken of. And it's like almost like there needs to be a realignment with what the actual truth of that word is, let's say.
yeah. That's fascinating. I can't say I've ever had anything like that happen, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I can grasp what you're talking about. Mm. Yeah, it's like a revisiting of the story. It's like you tell the story differently.
totally. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think there's an element of that in this journey somehow that like I was certainly that comports with my experience is that you almost revisit everything in light of this, sidestep into a different view of life, you could say. Everything is the same and yet everything is utterly different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that process that I think takes time, I would argue. It takes
Yeah.
time to embody what is actually being lived, not from concepts and ideas and certain sort of ways of being, needs to be undone and emerged in a, let's say, congruent way with truth and reality.
Mm. Yeah, because you know what it is. This is just coming off the top of my head. maybe this is what it is. I don't know. But for me, it's we're using the same language
Yes.
before realization and after realization. It's still English.
Yep.
So it's like
That's it.
the
You got it.
same, right? You almost have to like, yeah, you have to change the meaning of the dictionary that's in your head.
Exactly. That's exactly. And I literally, I'm not sure it's so literal with everyone, but for me, it was quite literal, that I had to literally go, okay, but what do you mean by this? What is my,
Mm,
like, how does, like, you're saying this word, but my experience is different from my conception of this word now. So I have to sort of go, okay, am I picking what I think it is or reality? And actually see where there is a gap between that now existed.
mm-hmm. Yeah. You speak any other languages?
Not fluently, no. But I learnt Welsh when I was a child and also French. But
Oh,
no, I wouldn't say I speak any other languages. Not
yeah.
in
Us
truth, no.
English people, we don't need to speak any other
I
languages.
know it's terrible. I think it's a real shame.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just going off the note of when you learn a different language, it must also change your consciousness
Yeah.
drastically, right? It has to. It must like shift it immensely in terms of like shifting meaning.
Yes, and how we think of things, and yeah, I think I think you're hitting into a very important point there. Is like where we've um, structured our life around a certain word and a certain meaning, we stop looking beyond that, and we almost get lazy. I want to use the word lazy there, but it's not quite
Mm,
the right word. But it's like,
complacent.
yeah, there's the better word. Yeah. So
Hmm.
we get complacent with I know what that is. And actually what is required in the spiritual endeavor is a continuous freshness with life, not at
Yeah.
all living on assumptions, but living in the raw unfolding reality of nowness. And so, as soon as we get complacent with life, we stop seeing the mystery of it. We stop seeing the radical revealing nature of life. And we think, oh, I know this. And that's the worst thing that can happen on the spiritual search, I would say. And I see people, I ask sometimes these, they seem like tropes, who are you? Right. And everyone's like, oh, I know the answer to that. And I'm like, no, no, no. I really want you to look. I don't want the answer. I don't care about the answer, actually. It's about the looking. And it's at that point, there's where you are in that innocent, radical rawness with life. You're no longer looking to your ideas of what life is. No, you're no longer looking to your concepts. You're no longer looking to your sort of assumptions, let's say, that have been untested. Even if you think you know the answer, it doesn't matter. It's not about the answer. It's about what that kind of question does to open you up to reality.
Hmm. Yeah. That's the basis of it, right? Is continually explore who you are. I think that complacency, again, is built into materialism,
Yeah.
right? So I think a part of this liberation that we speak of in this realm, this freedom, is to just continually explore what you are.
Yeah.
Take chances. Sometimes it doesn't work out, that's for sure.
You look at nature, that's all that nature ever does. And it's not
Yeah.
because, like you look at a tree and how it grows, it's constantly just reaching to find where the
Yeah.
most sunlight is. It's not staying stagnant and going, right, well, I've got it now. I've got this
Yeah.
branch and I'm good to go. And there's something about the human mind that is, again, I think it comes down to this where we derive our sense of self from, where we derive it from a sense of solidity of like, right, I've decided, I know who I am now in a material sense. Um, Life is constantly breaking that open, and we're constantly trying to put the egg back together. And it's like, no, that's not who you are anyway. So it's asking of us to touch the unending expression of life that is not bound in the way that the mind wants to put boxes around everything and be
Mhm.
certain of it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very well spoken in terms of nature. Such a good image. How nature just keeps going. It
Yeah,
just doesn't stop. I'm
yeah,
gonna remember that one. That's really good. Yeah, when you touch upon your true nature, it becomes very similar to nature itself.
yeah. Yeah, you feel the wildness, the spontaneousness, it's a responsiveness to life, not a reactivity of trying to
Yeah.
shut down and keep life a certain way. It's a responsiveness, it's a naturalness, it's a dance. Like I love using the word dance because that is a word that closely comports with my experience of life, a dance with life. And so, where we are living in our true nature, that's what we find is there's a continual dance with the relative, with the appearances, with the images of life, but they're not static. And there's, as soon as we want to hold down and pin down and anchor into a certain image of ourself or an image of life, this is where life comes and blasts that open and cracks it open and creates a sense of, oh God, what's going on? But actually, if you never uh, leave that sense of the dance of life, then there's a continual welcoming of that change and a living into it rather than avoiding of it, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Going in the, oh, you're going with the flow.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah. It's the dance between light and dark, yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. The wholeness, you can't have one without the other. And where we try to pin down into one aspect of life, we're missing that dance has the wholeness there, right there.
Mm. And most importantly, we start to dance with each other.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Rather than all the competition and this person's against me, it's like, no, it's actually more toward cooperation, ideally. I think also that's a possible destination as we all start to get along here in this thing we
Mhm.
call life. Definitely a work in progress, but I think that's where this is going.
Yeah, I think, where we are able to understand that every moment is a unique expression of this dance. No longer are we relatively comparing ourselves to another in that competitive nature, in that sense of, I'm better, you're worse. This is good, this is bad. Instead, we're appreciating the differentiating expressions of consciousness arising and yeah, celebrating is the word there. To celebrate the infinite expressions of being, and yet not separate from being itself.
Mm. Now that sounds like love.
There we go. We got back down to it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a celebration. I like
Yeah,
that. We celebrate each other.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Rather than fight each other for our differences, we celebrate each other for our differences.
yeah.
Might sound corny, but it's the truth. It really is.
This is the thing with these sort of uh, tropes or these corny, these ideas, these Hallmark card type
Cliches.
thing,
Hmm.
cliches. That's the word. Is there's a kernel of truth underneath all of it. It
Yeah.
gets said over and over again. Again, we come back to this thing of like the laziness of or the, what word did you use? Complacency. That
Yep.
sort of the complacency of oh, that's just that. It's so normal, it's so ordinary. But where you start to see the life as this ever fresh expression of itself, you don't see these things as, oh, that's just this. You actually feel them, you meet them as they are without reference to past almost.
Mm.
And so you meet that expression and you meet it fully as it is in its own merit, so to speak. You find the reverence of life in its own merit rather than in comparison to yesterday or tomorrow or this person or that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very well spoken. Again, there's no more comparison, right? Yeah, there's no like, I mean, you ever heard that one? This is another cliche. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, 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 that's a good one. Yeah. It's not that there's not differentiation though.
Mm.
Because I think some people think that, like when you get rid of comparison, somehow it all flattens out. And actually, I find that to be the opposite of what happens. It's comparison in terms of judgment, good and bad, right and wrong, better, worse, that dissolves, and what it leaves in its wake is just the taste. It's almost like tasting the sweet, tasting the salty, tasting the sour,
Mhm.
not as a comparison to the other, but as the full flavor as it is. And that you get to taste that. And we all have that experience of when you taste a new foods, and you have nothing to compare it to. You're just tasting it on its own merit, and therefore it's not good or bad, it's just what it is.
Mhm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. It was very well spoken. Mhm. It's like, equanimity. There is no judgment, I think, is another
Mm.
good word to say. There's a lack of judgment.
Yes.
There's no condemnation upon
No.
this life, anything that happens in life, and again, especially other people. It's
Yeah.
just, it's also not passivity. Is that the word?
No.
Yeah,
Yep.
passivity.
Yeah.
So one may think it's like you just sitting back and just going with the flow, man,
Yep.
hippie mindset. It's not really like
No,
that.
it's not that at all. That's such a misunderstanding that I encounter so much. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, I think, actually, is the sense of, non-doing as a passivity,
Hmm.
instead of recognizing that it's going with the flow, is not clinching on, grasping onto life in its certain form, but opening up to all that is the opposite of passivity. It's a total intimacy with what is, and that includes every possible expression of life there, from the most still, silent moment of existence to the most loud, vibrant expression of existence. It's to be with all of that. That's, to me, is equanimity. It's to be with what is, to neither push away or keep any expression of life, but to be open palmed with all of life, with what is. And that's
Hmm.
a very different experience than the mind's idea of I'm not doing, or I'm passively being with what is.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you're with the flow, actually, I find more volition in my actions. There is more just power behind my
Yes.
actions. But it's like because they're not my actions, it's
Yes.
the flow's
There's,
actions.
there you go. It's great. Yeah.
Right? Just going with the Tao. Yeah,
There
and
you
then
go.
there's just more gumption in everything that I do. It's like you do what is needed. You do what the flow
Yeah.
yields for you.
Yeah. The flow of life, the grace of life. You're in that non-personally, and this is again, talk about paradoxes. There's the paradox is the more impersonal it's known, the more personal is flowing through. That's what I find,
Yeah.
at least. The more
Yeah.
Imogenness there is here, the more impersonal that's seen. The more it is seen
Yeah.
like that dance, that flavor of existence, that flavor of being expressing itself as what I call Imogen, is less inhibited, is more expressively itself, the more impersonal life is seen as.
Yeah. It's like the more you surrender, the more power you get. You can have it
Totally.
all when you give it all up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been that particular one I've been really dancing with this week, actually. It's interesting how that surrender is absolute, and it's not a one and done. It's a continual surrender. And the more I go along in life, the more I recognize that, if I were to say the path that life has led me on is the path of surrender, and it's not the only way, but I think the closer into the mystery you get, the more the path looks like surrender.
Yeah. Or devotion, would you say?
Same thing.
Yeah.
But yes,
Hmm.
they to me, they're different fragrances or flavors of the same thing. So we can
Yeah.
use, it's almost like if you look at it like a spider's web, like each sort of line coming into the center point has its own fragrance, has its own way of being. For some it's more devotional, for some it's more, emptiness of the mind, some it's more surrender, but as we get closer and closer, we are surrendering to, or letting go, or letting be, or whatever word you want to use there, it doesn't matter, into the heart of existence. It's like it pulls you in there, and it's a letting go of any vestiges of I'm doing this.
Mm, yeah. There's a certain chapter in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna describes that as. There's 4 different types of yogas, but he says bhakti is
Hmm.
the most important one. I always remember that. There are many different ways to the way,
Yeah.
we could say, but I think it all amounts to bhakti. It all amounts to surrender.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, interestingly, it's the one that we struggle with, particularly in the West, I would say, the
Mm,
most. The utter
yeah.
devotion and surrender to the divine. And I think that's why, I call myself a contemplative mystic, if I had to put a label on it, because that's the description of that to me.
Mm,
And it's the thing that most people are afraid to touch, because it's a complete annihilation. It's a complete annihilation of everything you think you know, everything you all reference point to certainty. But actually, it's the very opposite of what the mind fears, which is literal annihilation. It's
mm-hmm.
it's what happens with that annihilation is the annihilation of the false image, the um, yeah, the false image, and what comes is the filling up of the divine.
Yeah.
So it's an
That's the
emptying
rebirth.
out. Yeah, it's an emptying out of the small self and a filling up of the big self, is some language you could use. So it's the opposite of annihilation, actually, but it is a destructive annihilation of that which you never were to begin with.
Mm-hmm. That's the ego's worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. And it seems like in order for the ego to die, you have to devote yourself to something that is greater than yourself.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And I actually think it's why we're having a resurgence of religion. Is a tricky one because it's not just religion. We're having a resurgence, I think, in uh, the world of people looking for God again in a more pointed way. And of course, there are many forms of that. Some better or worse, you could say. But what it's pointing to is that, for me, is the fact that we've gone so fully into the material as our sense of meaning, our sense of deriving our sense of self, that actually the counterpoint to that is now needing to going, okay, that doesn't work. As you pointed out in your own search, it's like
Mm-hmm.
that there's something doesn't add up here. And so now we're having, I would say, a sort of a shift away from that in various forms of people looking for meaning, and not the human sense of meaning. Oh, I've done this and I've made a difference in the world, but true meaning, meaning beyond a concept of meaning, finding God, finding the self, finding our true nature. And I think that's why I see a resurgence in this in many ways, because I think people are going, oh, it's this, isn't it? This doesn't do this. And there's something more. I can feel that there's something more.
Yeah. I think we all feel that
Yeah.
deep down,
Yeah. It's
maybe
calling us
shrouded.
home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all walking each other home, as
Yeah.
Ramdas would say.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there is this pull. It's a pull toward God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Innately, I think it's in there for every single human being.
I agree. I agree.
Mm. But as I said in the beginning, it's tough to know where to look or how to look. That's the trickiest part.
Because that's, to me, the mind trying to control the progress of this. trying to
Yeah.
get it right, trying to control how that search looks. And in reality, the search leads us to where it is not often. So the mind trying to control this search opens up, like I would say, seeking. It's sort of the purpose of seeking. We go down this road. Oh, it's not there. Oh, we go down this. Okay, it's not there. Oh, and so the purpose of that is the thinning of the mind's sense of I can control this, and actually an opening up of that devotion or that surrender, that so that there's a dropping, a sinking, a letting go that can happen to a remembrance of our nature, because it's already here. It's just we're looking out there to go and get it. And that's the
Hmm.
mind. That's that sense of how do I do this? Where do I look? All of this. And actually the answer is calling you home all the time anyway. We just need to listen. And so
Mm.
we have to go through the process of not listening and pouring more into a sense of our path and our seeking. And I've got to get this and I've got to go there and I've got to do this, only to come back home to the recognition of, this isn't about filling myself up with more stuff. This is, and somehow how to do that. It's actually an emptying out.
Yeah.
I love this
Less
word.
is more.
Yeah, I love this word kenosis. Like, to me, that's a really beautiful word, an emptying out of the small self to be filled up with the divine. So it's how do you do that? It's like saying, how do you fall in love? Or how do you breathe? It's like these things that just are naturally, inherently happen to us. It's a happening. It's not a how. If you're asking how, it's coming from the wrong place. It's coming from the mind wanting to have certainty, wanting to find a good footing by which it is still in control of this process,
Mm.
which takes you so far. It's not to be completely diminished or dismissed. It's just that's the issue. That eventually that's the one that has to go.
Yep. Hmm. Now, do you think spending time with others that just a little wiser than you, that may be further along the path per se, is one of the most valuable practices, or something that
I
someone
would
can
say.
incorporate?
I would say there comes a point where actually it's the most important thing. Not
Yeah.
because of the person you're sitting with necessarily as a personal sense of, oh, it's them, but the way I would describe it is at a certain point where you've filled your whole thing up with concepts and ideas and you've got you so far, there comes a point where you recognize this is not something I'm going to do. This is about that surrender. And what happens when you sit, keep the company of those that have recognized this themselves. It's not even about the words they say, it's about the energy that they embody and transmit. And I would use, there's the idea of entrainment where, energetically, that which is stronger, that which is weaker entrains to the sense of that which is stronger.
Mm.
And so what happens when you keep the company of those that awake to their nature, and they hold that fragrance, that vibration, that lightness of being that center of gravity, you could call it. There's naturally there's a sort of an embodiment that starts to happen, a reorganizing of one's own system that moves towards that more. It's not the only way, but I would say, like, certainly for me, it was invaluably helpful um, to be in that sort of space, even if it's just meditating in silence or that kind of thing. Because what it does is it gets beyond the conceptual mind and just allows one to tune into that. It's almost like a radio transmitting a
Yeah.
certain frequency. I mean, it's why I offer what I do, because I find that to be very helpful.
Oh, for sure. I feel it. I feel it from you. I feel the gravity pulling me in.
Yeah,
It's real. Yeah. You're very poetic. I like the imagery that you paint in your words. Just giving you a little props here.
good.
Because the
Thank you.
gravity thing, that, yeah, seriously, I mean that. The gravity thing resonated with me. Like, there is this pull
Yes,
with people that know, like, that have this energy, that have this resonance. You just feel, I mean, you feel in love with them. It's
yeah,
contagious in
it is.
some way.
Quite literally. And it's to me it's like it's a spreading of that within. There's a, like I would say, if you think of a candle and how it's most potent right where it's lit, but there's this light that spreads. And for
Yeah.
me, we are each that candle with that light. But where there's a very brightly burning candle, it's sort of, it can light that light for you know a very large area
Yeah.
of life.
All it takes is one candle.
Yeah. And so I
Yeah.
think, that's the value there, is to sit in the company of that. Is it's not that, someone is giving you something you don't have. I think there's a misunderstanding there. It's really about a remembrance or a revealing of that which you are, that light that you already are. And so to tune into that frequency, to tune into that level of life, level of existence, is so much easier when you've got someone shining that light, and
Hmm.
you're able to. It's almost, I use the example of, like, I'm singing a C note, and it's not that I'm singing the C note for you. I'm singing the C note so that you can match your tone to that C note, and it's easier. Now you can do it by yourself in your bathroom, sing your C note, whatever, and that's totally possible, but it's easier when you're in a choir, when you're in that space together. It becomes imminently more tangible, more real, more able to taste and feel in your system.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just quite simply easier.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Such a good metaphor again of tuning oneself,
yeah.
especially to anybody that plays any instruments. It's so much easier to tune the guitar when you do
Yes,
hear what you're trying to tune to.
yes,
Plain and
yes,
simple.
yes. And of course, if you have been used to tuning the guitar, you become that for others as well, like where you, like, say that you've got lots of instruments and you are able to tune that guitar really simply, and then others around you then use that ability. So that's the role, I would say, of a, let's say, a guru or sage or someone who's awakened, whatever word you want to use there. It's they provide that anchor point, that ability to tune into that.
Mm. Now, I think we should also mention, though, that is fine line to toe because
Oh,
we've all heard plenty of controversies with gurus.
100%. And I'm very much, I've experienced those controversies myself, and
Oh, personally?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And so, we again, for me, the most important thing is to recognize that they don't have something you don't have. In the same way, it's not that you can't tune your guitar to the C note either. And so it's this thing of giving one's sovereignty to another, being beholden to another, is a fine line between devotion and surrender, but not to them as a person. They are an embodiment of this light, this expression, an exemplar at the best side of it, let's say. Um, where they haven't done their work fully, maybe there's still some things that need to be worked out there. But, they're still human. They're still expressions of the divine in its multiplicity, in its form. Um, so I think being able to not lose sight of that is really important. To not to recognize that the surrender is not to a person, but to being itself.
Hmm.
There's where it gets tricky, if
Yeah.
it's the idea to a person.
Yeah. It's very tricky because there's some people that are very charismatic, very good
Mhm.
looking, and they're
Yep.
saying exactly what you want to say, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
might just want your money
Yeah, yeah, all
or
sorts.
something like
Well,
that.
yeah, there's all sorts of things that can happen there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky dance, that one. There's no right or wrong answer, other than personal experience, and how you never stray from listening to your body, listening to your intuition. Thoughts, mind, concepts, less easy to grasp in terms of certainties there, because the mind can, give us all sorts of pros and cons and all the rest of it. But I think the body is, a really, for me at least, has been a really beautiful way of feeling where there's something off or not feeling so good, and
Yeah.
trusting that.
Yeah. The body sends us messages, intuitive messages throughout the
Totally.
body.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a huge
Signal.
aspect of the path. Signals. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
is getting in touch with the signals of your body and being able to listen to that
Yes.
100%.
Totally.
More than all mind, right? Part of
Oh,
that, again,
100%.
materialism. It's all mind. It's all up here. But no, no, no.
Yeah. Yeah, the mind is too fickle. The mind's
Yeah.
far too fickle for that. But there's this, the body, even the body can betray us in some ways. But it, for me, is a much, much, much better tool of listening to those signals that is there, and learning how to trust the body. And it's, I guess, what it lets us down is the interpretation of it is, and so again, the mind.
Mm. Yes. Amen. I like to say intuition leads the way.
Yeah, 100%.
We all know what intuition is. I think we all have intuition.
Oh,
So,
we all have intuition. That's the, I would say, our
yeah.
primary expression of life is intuitive. But
Yeah.
we, as we go through our childhoods, we shut down that intuition. We get
Mm.
more and more filled up with ideas of how we should behave, how we should act. We go against, we sort of abandon ourselves, you could say, of that intuitive knowingness, that signal of life that even goes beyond the body. And we get more and more into shoulds. And as we get more and more into shoulds, we actually turn off our trust, let's say, or diminish our trust, or increase our mistrust of
Yeah.
uh, that intuitive knowingness that we all inherently carry within us.
Mm. Yeah. With the intuition, there's no shoulds. There's no
No,
shoulds or shouldn't. It's
no,
just it's a different kind of intelligence. It's a
it
different kind
is.
of judgment and discernment.
Totally.
It's
Totally.
very subtle.
It is. It's very quiet. And yet,
Mm.
interestingly, it's not weak or soft in its sense. It's just quiet. It doesn't shout
Yeah.
at you until it needs to, until you've ignored it so many times. And then life is, the intuitive feedback is like life bonking you on the head because you know,
Yeah.
ignored all of those intuitive signals that are being presented. So yeah, it's very quiet, or rather it that be maybe more nuanced. It's not quiet. It's compared to the mind, which is very loud and obvious. It speaks in a different language. And so
Yeah.
most of us are very ill equipped to tune into that language because of all our conditioning of the mind.
Yeah. I never heard it put that way. It speaks in a different language. Yeah. And it's not words.
No, not at all.
Huh. I'm trying to put words on it right now.
Yeah, there we go. There's the mind. We're just, that's the mind does that. And it's not, it's beautiful that the mind does that, but actually, if you sit into the feeling of that, the knowingness of that, there's where you regain your trust of it without trying to then go back out into the mind to try and understand it. It's like this is where the words come for me. And you say I'm poetic. The poetic words come from sitting with the direct experiential intuitive knowingness of reality. The words and the wisdom come from that, not the other way around. It's
Yeah.
almost like you need
Mm.
to, it's like learning the palm of your hand, not because you're trying to understand it, but because you're sitting with it. So then the description of that becomes obvious. So that's
Yeah.
how I relate to that language learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that gets into the realm of poetry because poetry is a different way to utilize language. It's almost like another code, right?
Yes.
It's another way of you, like you're speaking English or whatever language you write poetry in, but it's something different. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of meaning that's in those words
Yeah. It's
when it's
not
a good
literal.
poem.
It's not literal. It's
Yeah,
it's it's almost like a piece of music, in the same way you
Mm-hmm.
listen to a piece of music and there's a fullness, a wholeness in the music. There's a transmission of that music that is not about the singular instrument. It's the same thing with poetry for me. It's not about the singular word. So when someone tries to dissect, why did you use that word? I'm like, no, listen to the wholeness of the poem. There's where you feel the symphony. There's where you feel the wholeness of what is being pointed to and where it's being pointed from. So it's not about the words. It's about the words as a whole. The whole poem is what gives rise to the sense of what is being spoken about. So you can't dissect a poem. It's a fragrance. It's a song. It's a symphony. It's a poem. It doesn't break down into its parts.
Mm, yeah. Like if you just read one line
Hmm.
or you listen to one line of a song, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. If you
No.
just get one part of what that piece of artwork is, it won't make any sense. There's no
Yeah.
context. The
Yeah.
context is the whole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole
And
is
that's why
larger.
there's power. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the whole is larger than the sum of the parts.
Mm.
That's not me, by the way.
Oh, who is that?
That's Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, I think, or I think it's been
Oh,
said all over the shop,
yeah.
but didn't want to take
I've heard something like
credit
that
for that
before.
for myself. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's like when you have a good poem, poetry, a song, it's like there's so much condensed meaning in whatever that piece of work is, right? Getting back to the idea of meaning, there's just so much, right? You can listen to a song one time, get a sense of meaning from it, and then listen to it
Mm.
500 times, and you'll get a different meaning from it on
Right.
that 500th time.
I love
That's
that.
the power and the majesty of the art form of poetry or song. They go hand in hand. Poetry and song
Yeah.
hand in
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
or just art altogether. There's just so much meaning in it.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah.
creative expression, even it's funny, like I even want to widen it out. Even a good mathematical equation or a meal or,
Yeah.
anything that is an outpouring of creativity, an outpouring of creation that is coming forth. And it speaks to me of the fact that we're constantly trying to put things in boxes in the mind, but actually we miss the wholeness of it. We miss the outpouring of it. We miss the totality, the wholeness of that which is coming forth, that is so much beyond just what's being presented. The transmission.
Mm. I get the image of that's what this is all about. That's what we're trying to convey here is we're trying to box it in with our words at this moment, literally. The
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
the magnificence of the whole. So we're
Yes.
trying to like flavor it up and dance with our words here.
Yes.
Um, but that is the essence of, I guess, a good talk and a good podcast. Maybe we did a good job. I think we did. A good Dharma talk does that. It takes the magnificence of the whole, the just glory of
Yeah.
the wholeness, the holiness, and puts it in a meaningful format.
Yeah, it leaves an impression. So those
Yeah.
things that really touch us, a song, a poem, a talk, a satsang, a meditation, whatever it is, what it touches our heart in a way that is inexplicable.
Hmm.
It opens us up. We feel it in our being. It sort of resides there. It's almost like it infuses in our system and opens us up to a different world. And that's to me the best that can happen when we're sitting in a Dharma talk or in the middle of an orchestra listening, or whatever it is. It
Mm.
opens you to that world. And again, it's that thing, talking about sitting with teachers. It's the same thing. It opens you to that level, that layer, that paradigm, that view, that world of existence that maybe wasn't available in an obvious way to you. It's not that it fundamentally wasn't available. It's that where the attention was lived from and drawn to wasn't that. And then in a moment, you have this world opened up to you. You go, whoa, I didn't see this was here. And it always was. It's just it wasn't seemingly accessible because it hadn't yet sort of opened its fruits to you.
Hmm. I got the image, two images. This is just how I interpret people's words, is through images. I don't know why.
Beautiful.
It's just
Yeah.
how
No,
my
no,
mind
I love
works.
it. I love it.
I got like a portal opening, like
Hmm.
you step into a portal, it's a new world, but you don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't go anywhere. It's just like it's the portal like of right here. And also, you take the shades off, you take the glasses off, and you
Yes.
start to see. Again, you don't go anywhere. You just start to see differently.
This is it. This is
Many
why.
different metaphors.
Totally. And this is why, to say it's a journeyless journey,
Yeah.
the mind goes, hang on, how can that be? We can't have a journey that's journeyless. That does not make sense. But when you feel into a lot of what is being spoken about, whether it's an imagery like you've just shared, or wording or something, we like where we try not to understand it with the mind, but feel it, sense into it, experience it in an experiential way. There's where we get the taste of it, the fragrance, what is being pointed to, and it's beyond words. And there is to me where you touch the mystery of it all. It's not it's not something that can be captured by words alone, and yet words themselves open that portal to that place. So there's again another paradox.
Mm. You know what? I think that might be a good note to wrap it up at.
Okay, very good.
Do you have anything else that you want to say? Anything, any other words that you want to use to open the portal?
Silence or words doesn't matter. You
Hmm.
can use endless, I always feel this, I can use endless words. So I'm endlessly wanting to use words to deepen and convey, or silence. Doesn't matter. Both of those open that in us where we surrender to what is being pointed to.
Mm, wonderful. Well, Imogen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
You're an awesome person, very well spoken. You have such a nice voice too. I don't know, maybe it's your accent because I'm an
Maybe.
American, but there's something about the tone of your voice that is just soothing. It's very relaxing. It's very comforting. So yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Seriously.
You too. You too. Thank you.
But yeah, peace and love to you, and peace and love to everybody that listened to this song. Goodbye, y'all.